I think Chet Tammuz, right? The 8th day of Tammuz. And we are studying the book of Shmuel, Shmuel Aleph, chapter 28, verse 6. We are entering very dramatic 24 hours. This is the last 24 hours in the life of Shaul, of King Saul. Tomorrow, he's going to be no more. And a lot of moving parts, a lot of amazing events. A lot of it is sad, some of it is weird, some of it is not really something that we can understand in terms of rationalizing it. But nonetheless, that's what's happening. So the Philistines, who are typically based in the south of Israel, in the Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Kiryat Gat area, got a refugee with the militia. David ran away from the land of Israel. He is now with the Philistines, hiding, trying to escape the wrath of Shaul, doesn't want to be hunted by him anymore. So he's there with the 600 men that he had. And the Philistines are seeing an in once David, who is a powerhouse militarily, is on their side. They decided it's time to attack again the Jews. Because last time they lost because of David, right? They killed Goliath. So they basically decided to pick their target. They're not going through to fight with the usual suspects, which are close to their border in the land of Benjamin, and Yehuda. They decided to look for an easy target or easier target, and they found it in the north of Israel. North of Israel, tribe of Issachar, a tribe that is typically producing scholars and rabbis, not military men. They were there, so they decided that's a good opportunity to attack the rabbis, the Blasio style. What they did, they went over there. They amassed their army over there, and Saul was rushing with the Jewish army to protect. So Saul was in the Gilboa, in Mount Gilboa, which is a little east of Jenin, in the lower Galilee, south of Afula a little bit, Emek Israel area, beginning of the Galil, right? And he's standing on the mountain and sees a sea of Philistines, and he got scared. He got very scared. He got he panicked, basically. He's in panic mode. Doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have his best hero. David is no longer an ally, not available for this fight. So he doesn't know what to do. So this is where we find ourselves in 28:6. You can see it on my screen, I hope. Vaish'al Shaul ba'Hashem velo anau. So Shaul is praying and asking God for advice. He doesn't know what to do. He is in panic mode. He's thinking maybe he should strike a peace deal. Maybe he should pay ransom. Maybe he should default. He doesn't know what to do. So he's praying and asking God in all kinds of ways, what am I to do? Now, there are various ways of asking God. Now, don't forget that Shaul himself was a prophet. As we recall, he was prophesying. We said, Agam Shaul Baneviim, right? He is a holy man. He has some powers that normal people don't. So he felt, and he's also a leader of the Jewish people, the top of the pyramid. So he felt that he should ask God for advice, what to do next, for guidance. And one of the ways to do it is to pray that God will reveal himself in a dream and tell me what to do, you know. But because he was not in, really not doing the right thing, and it was time for God to sort of act and move on with the kingdom, to give the to let the next king take over, King David, right, Melech David. So God doesn't answer him. Doesn't answer him. V'lo anau Hashem gam b'chalomot. He didn't answer him, not in dreams. Gam b'orim, gam b'neviim. He tried 3 different ways of getting an answer, and he hit a brick wall in each time. He couldn't. The first one he was asking with the dreams. He didn't get any. He was trying to do it himself. So when someone prays and God answers them, they don't need to talk to anyone. So he tried, first of all, to be self-sufficient and do she'elat chalom. Okay? Didn't work. So then he was asking in the breastplates. And that didn't work. And then he was asking in the prophets, and that didn't work. Now let's just concentrate for a second on the breastplates, because we have a little bit of a problem here. The breastplates were not available to him. When he killed the whole city of Nov, the only survivor was a gentleman by the name of Eviatar, who ran with the breastplates and joined David. Joined the militia of David, and now he took the breastplates with him. So how does he have breastplates to deal with, to ask? So there are 2 approaches. One approach, that he created a second one. That he created a second breastplate, which you allow. It's not, there is no prohibition to do that, as long as it works. And it works, if it's done right, it works in the hand of the Kohen. And he took one of the Kohanim to be with him. His name was Tzadok at the time. And gave him that breastplate. And this is how he was asking. This is one approach. Another approach is that he was still in contact with Eviatar through messengers. Eviatar was with David. He was the king of Israel. David had tremendous respect for Saul. He didn't let anybody harm him. He held him in high regard. God chose him to be the first king of the Jews, right? So if Saul would send a messenger with a question for the breastplate to ask the breastplate, David will allow it. So that is another approach, that he was asking basically David, Eviatar, for an answer. So in any event, he figured out how to get a hold of a breastplate, and he asked a question, but that didn't work. Of the Kohen with the breastplate, and it didn't work. And then he asked Nevi'im. Now, which Nevi'im did he ask? He asked prophets. So usually his Navi, his house Navi, was Shmuel, but Shmuel is dead. So there were other Nevi'im. The major ones were Gad and Natan. Those are the Nevi'im that took over after Shmuel, and they actually are writing the words that we are reading now. They're the ones that continued the book of Shmuel, right? The writing of the book of Shmuel. But it seems that he didn't ask them. Why? Because they were loyal to Shmuel, and therefore they were loyal to David. And he wasn't really in with David so close at the moment. So he was asking minor prophets that were at the time, that was at the time of Shmuel, it was the height of the prophecy era amongst the Jewish people. You had hundreds of, some say it's thousands of Nevi'im walking around, and they were all, none of them mattered for generations, so we don't know who they were, but for the time they were available. He asked them, didn't work. So, now we are entering the weird part of the evening. This is Sorcery 101. I'll teach you some magic here and there. Don't tell anyone. If someone wants private lessons, reach me. I can take for a good pay, I'll give you the right information. So, when Shmuel died, one of the things that Shaul did for Shmuel as aliyat neshama, in memory of, he took out of all of the magicians and all of the witches in the land of Israel. It became forbidden to practice sorcery and magic in the land of Israel. So there was no, whoever was, he killed a few, I guess, threw a few in a slammer and created deterrence, and the rest went into hiding and, clothed their torch up. Vayomer Shaul le'avadav. So now that he's trying to ask God for guidance, Shmuel is dead, he doesn't have who to ask, so what should he do? Aha! Sorcery. Let's find a magician, let's find a witch, let's find someone who practices magic, and let's ask him to help me communicate with Shmuel. Shmuel is no longer dead. We will see later on how does it work. The neshama, after someone passes away, there is a period of 12 months where the neshama has stronger connection to the body that was left behind. And during that period of 12 months, apparently, it's easier to communicate with the neshama in some sort of a dark magic type of a way. And it was common in those days to do it more, although you had a lot of charlatans and a lot of people who would just take your money and tell you Baba Mises, But apparently it was something that did exist. So what's happening now, he's looking for someone who is versed in sorcery. So Bakshuli Eshet Baal Ov. Please find for me. He's telling his advisors and his servants, please find for me someone who is I can consult with, a woman. Why is he saying woman? Because it wasn't a well-paying job, and therefore in those days that's who was practicing it. Generally speaking, women were practicing it. So he said, find me one of those ladies, and I'm going to go to her, and I'm going to ask her. We have someone around here in the area. So this is awfully weird. And it will become even weirder in a second. So first of all, Endor. Where is Endor? Endor is on the banks of on the edge of the Mediterranean, around Caesarea, nowadays Caesarea. So there is a place called Endor. It's close, very close to the Gilboa, and apparently it was a port city at the time of the Romans, maybe before that as well. And this is where she was. Now that woman happened to be his aunt. Weird. Let's straighten out the genealogy here. So Avner ben Ner was his Shaul's cousin, right? It was Shaul's cousin. Shaul's nephew. I'm sorry. Avner ben Ner was Shaul's nephew. No.
His sister or brother's.
His brother married this בעלת Ov. His father's brother married this בעלת Ov. She was his aunt, and if she was his aunt, Avner ben Ner was the cousin, right?
Was her son.
Avner was her son, and so Avner was the cousin, and that was his mother. So his mother was this kind of a woman that deals with magic. She knew Shaul from youth. Obviously, he grew up with her. She called him Shauli. She was an older lady at the time. Now, when the decree to take out all of that outlawed sorcery and magic in the land of Israel, she had to stop doing it. She went into hiding. She stopped doing this. Avner ben Ner, who knew very much who his mother was, hid her, made sure that she's not doing it, and made sure that she's not being harmed. He was in charge of, enforcing all of the decrees of Shaul in the land, because he was the head of the army, the chief of staff. So he made sure that nothing is happening to his mother. But now, when he sees the broch, the balagan, the problems that Shaul is in, that the Jewish people are in, and that we have a big army ahead of us and we don't know what to do, he decided to, and we need it quickly and fast, and the law was just published now a few days before that, a few months before that, not to allow sorcery and magic, practicing magic. So to find someone off the street, it was nearly impossible. Even those that knew it, were refused service because it's against the law. So he decided we need this, so let's get it in. Now, what does Shaul think? Okay, Shaul, he was before outlawed this, right? So how come he's now using the services of such a thing? So let's stop for a second, and I'm going to take you into a very interesting halakha. Okay, in Shulchan Aruch, in Yoreh De'ach, Shulchan Aruch, right between the halachot that talks about not to wear clothes that not Jewish clothes, and right after that, and right before the halachot of tattoos, I'm serious, there is one siman, the halachot of magic. All right, it's in the Shulchan Aruch. It's ilchot me'onenu mechashef, ilchot magic, magician. The very first halacha, אין שואלים בחוזים בכוכבים ולא בגאולות. You're not allowed to ask seers and astrologists and those who are using all kinds of lots and lottery to predict the future. Why? Because שנאמר תמים תהיה עם השם אלוקיך. Because we are, Jews are loyal to God. We have to be straight with God, and we have to, whenever we need something, so we have one address. So we can't go to all kinds of, competition across the street and ask them all kinds of nonsense. And then there is v'chol shechen, and for sure not allowed to ask magicians and those who are guessing and witches. You're not allowed to ask them, because this is even a stronger isur, it's a stronger prohibition, because there is you're not allowed to ask help from a magician. This is a biblical prohibition. So that's what Shulchan Aruch says. Siftei Kohen is a explanation, is a commentary to the Shulchan Aruch. A gentleman that lived in the mid 1600s, died very young at the age of 41, lived in Vilna. He writes the following. He said, however, a sick person who sort of ran out of options can ask magicians, what to do and how to function, because it was a common occurrence in those days. There were you had a lot of those charlatans and a lot of those type of people. Few and far between were worth something. By the way, the Shabbos in Chukat and Balak, in Parashat Balak, we're going to read about the biggest magician of all times, Bilam, right? So it was possible and it was practiced. So people were using those services. And then he says, however, a sick person is not allowed to use these services unless it's pikuach nefesh, unless it's a life or death situation. Somebody is really sick, they're about to die, they don't have any other option, they're allowed to ask a magician. But if it's not life and death, even if they're about to lose a limb because of the sickness, that's not a strong enough reason to ask a magician. Okay, so this is the halacha. What does Shaul think? This is pikuach nefesh. This is life and death. It's life and death not only for me, it's life and death for the whole nation. I need help. So therefore, he's deciding that this is time to use sorcery, to use magician, to use a machshefa, to use Ba'alat Ov, and he's looking for someone. And what do you know? Avner tells him that here we have this woman, happens to be your aunt, let's go, happens to be my mother, right? Let's go and ask her. Now Shaul doesn't want his aunt to know who he is, because he wanted, a regular customer service. He didn't want any special. He just wanted her to connect him with Shmuel, with no frills, no extras, no. He doesn't want to be He doesn't. Number one, it's obvious because he's the king that just decreed not to do it, and now he himself is doing it. Not a good idea. Not good, PR. Number two. She might start telling him she's his aunt, she start telling him all kinds of things he doesn't want to hear. Not a good idea. So what is the solution? The solution is to go at night. In those days, without electricity, once nightfall happened, you go in. If you're dressed appropriately and hide yourself appropriately, people cannot see, she cannot recognize him. Now, so Vayitchapes Shaul, so he can put some costumes and different clothes. Vayilbash begadim acherim, different type of clothing than his royal garments. Vayelechu, so he went with two people. This is where the rabbis are learning that you're not supposed to go, definitely not at night, alone. Definitely not a king. It's not safe, and it's not respectful. So he took two people. Who were the two people? So one person is obvious, is Avner, right? The kid, his chief of staff is taking him to his mother, because she will need some convincing to perform this act, because it's not allowed, and she knows that her little nephew Shaul is not exactly the most stable at the moment, and he very easily kill people he doesn't think are doing the right thing. So if that's the decree, she would need convincing. So he took Avner. The second person that went with them is also a relative, but a relative of David. We are entering now, the land of soap opera, which is going to last for a little while. The relatives that are mixing in and ending up killing each other. It's not funny, and but who is the second person? The second person was a gentleman by the name of Amasa. Amasa was David HaMelech had two sisters. At least two sisters. One is called Tzruya, and that is the mother of Yoav, who was later on David's head of chief of staff, right? He was his army man, right? And the other one, her name is Abigail, just like David's wife's name, Abigail. And Abigail had a son called Amasa. This Amasa ended up later on being the chief of staff of Avshalom, David's son, who is rebelling against him. But at this point, he is loyal to Shaul, and he's one of the close advisors, and don't know for what reason, he is the one that's joining Avner Bener, and they're going to Mama Witch. Vayavo el ha'isha laila. So they came to that witch, to that magical woman, the mother of Avner, at night. Vayomer, so Shaul is telling her, Kosmina li be'ov, please use ov, ve'alili et asher omar lach, and bring up a person that I will tell you. Now, and this is where the big money in magic is going to be, the big secret. Ov works as follows. The person who is the witch, the magician, they can only see the person that they're bringing, the person that they're communicating with, the neshama that they're communicating with. They can see it, but they cannot hear it. The person who's asking the question, in our case here, Shaul, he is the one that can talk and hear the neshama talking to them, but they can't see it. And anybody around cannot see and cannot hear. So these are the rules of engagement. So he wanted Why did he want that kind of sorcery? There are other kinds. He wanted to hear in Shmuel's voice exactly what to do. So he wanted that particular medium, that particular way of communicating. So he's coming to her and he's talking her into, please use your magic and bring off. Now again, this was usually a bunch of BS, a bunch of garbage that never worked. It was fraud. It's not, it's just like today you have, those people who read in cards and stuff. It's mostly 99.99% are all garbage. That's the case was in those days. It was all garbage. And they did it because they were able to make some living from it. But now and it wasn't a well-paying job. That's why women were after it. So it's not like she was able to break the bank with this magic. So vatomer ha'isha. So she's saying, listen, buddy. Vatomer elav, Ine ata yadata, you know et asher asa Shaul. You know that Shaul is not allowing it. And pay attention here. She's not calling him King Shaul because she is his aunt. She knows him from youth as Shauli. She's not going to start calling him king, She's an old lady. So, you know that Shaul, asher ichrit et haovod et haidoni, he basically abolished where are we? Basically abolished the avod, this kind of magic practice from the land. ולמה אתה מתנקש בנפשי לעמיתני? Why are you assassinating me? מתנקש is in the modern Hebrew, assassination. Why are you trying to kill me? No good is going to come to neither of us from this whole thing. So why are you doing it? So Vayishava. So now Shaul, again, justifying in his mind that this is a pikuach nefesh, this is something that has to happen, is something that we have no choice. So he is promising her, Vayishava Shaul ba'Hashem le'emor. He's using the name of God to swear, which is, it doesn't make sense because he's doing something now which is not supposed to be done. Definitely not by a person of his means and stature. And she's using the forces of evil to bring Shmuel. It's not good for Shmuel, it's not good for Shaul, but he is in panic mode, so he doesn't know what else to do. And he promising her, Chai Hashem im ikrech avon b'davar hazeh, that God will with me, will be my witness that nothing is going to happen to you. Now, if he's the king, obviously he can make sure that he's not going to kill her. But she doesn't know that now. So what is it worth, this kind of a promise? It's very it's bizarre. But he says that. And then, of course, her Yingale, her son Avner, is adding also and convincing her. So she agrees. Vatomer ha'isha et mi a'ale lach, vayomer et Shmuel ha'alili. So who should I bring to you? So he said Shmuel. At this point, she understood exactly who he is. Okay? Because people, are not going to bring Shmuel. People who are just regular people are not going to bring the Navi Shmuel who just died, that everybody revere, everybody loves, everybody appreciates, everybody respects. They're not going to use the forces of evil, the forces of tum'ah, the forces of impurity to bring his neshama to speak here in this world. It's not to be done. It's like you asking a bunch of hoodlums to bring the rabbi because you want to ask a question about kashrus, That's not the way you do that, So she right away understood who, and obviously it was easier to figure out who that person is who's wearing. It's her son there, So she was not a stupid woman. So she figured out and said, "Vatera isha." Now, so that was not enough. But then Vatera isha Shmuel. Then she saw Shmuel. She made her magic and she saw Shmuel. Remember, we said before that the magician can only see. They cannot hear. They can only see Shmuel. And the guy who was asking can only hear, cannot see. All right? So she saw Shmuel, so she right away understood what happened here. Usually, her magic doesn't work. It's nonsense. And she knew it's nonsense. And she knew that it's all a bunch of baloney. And here suddenly it worked. The guy is asking for Shmuel, and she's moving the coffee or the whatever she's using, the smoke, I don't know, whichever way the procedure was. And Shmuel, she sees Shmuel. She recognized Shmuel, obviously was recognizable because Shmuel was a person that was walking around all the land of Israel throughout the 10 years, 11 years that he was in charge. He would walk around, would make the rounds to help teach the Jews everywhere. He wouldn't sit at home. So everybody knew his face. Everybody knew who he was. It wasn't a question. So she right away understood that, if that works, that means something is wrong. Because usually it doesn't work for me, this whole thing. ותזעק בקול גדול, so she cried. ותאמר האישה אל שאול. So she told him, Shaul, למה רימיתני ותשאול? Why are you fooling me? You are Shaul, I know who you are. What is this that you're doing here? Now, she understood that it's improper. She understood that it's wrong. And, she was as surprised as Shaul that it actually works. So, Vayomer la HaMelech. Now, throughout this whole episode, we're not calling Shaul HaMelech, right? We're mentioning Shaul because he's doing something really not proper for a king. He's not being called Vayishal Shaul, Vayelech Shaul, Vayikbot Shaul. We're talking about Shaul in a way that is just not really fitting the position of a king. But here, suddenly we're calling him a melech. Why? Vayomer la melech, because at that point he basically assumed back the authority and the responsibility of being a king. He is here on a mission. He is not for himself. He's not going to ask Shmuel, what number is going to come in the next lottery drawing. He is now trying to save the Jewish people. And therefore, in his mind, it's totally legitimate that what he's doing. So, Vayomer HaMelech, al tiri, don't worry. Ki mara'it, I just want to know, what did you see? Because he can't see, he only can hear. But he wants to know that it's not some, I don't know, some another shmulik, He wants to know that it's the prophet Shmuel himself. Vatomer ha'isha al Shaul, Elokim ra'iti olim min ha'aretz. He said, I saw two people. I saw angels. I saw angels coming, rising from the ground, from earth. What's the story here? Typically, and again, this is all secrets of sorcery. Please don't use it. Don't use it on yourself. When someone is asking when somebody is bringing a dead soul using this kind of magic, typically the soul comes with the feet up first, because it's upside down. It's the forces of impurity, and here Shmuel came up head first, like an angel. So that how she figured that it's someone very important. And she said several. She didn't see one person. She saw two. Why did she see two? So the Rashi and others are telling us that what happens when the neshama is up there and the first 12 months after passing away, there is a whole kinds of accounting that's happening with the neshama. Right? People are going to cleanse themselves from this world and whatever sins they did, and so throughout that time, the neshama can be summoned to Beis Din Shel Mala, to the court of heaven, several times, or all kinds of times, for to do accounting. So here Shmuel was summoned by the courts to come, and he think to himself, "Oh my gosh, What did I do? It's probably to punish me. So Shmuel, who was one of the greatest tzaddikim in the world that ever lived, was afraid that he did something wrong, and now when he was alive, and now it's time for Beis Din Shel Mala, the court, to straighten out and give him the proper punishment. Now he was in Gan Eden, and who was he with in Gan Eden? With Moshe. He was with people who were his equals. When we go to Gan Eden, we're all going to have people that are our peers. A peer of your friends. That's what happened. We're being placed in the right place. So he was in the right place together with Moshe. So when he was summoned, he asked Moshe, "Come with me. Help me out. I may need a character witness or something. So come with me." So Moshe came with him, and here we go. Shmuel showed up in that woman's magic show. So Shaul understood that she saw him, but he wanted to make sure that this is the man. So she asked him, "Vayomer lamat to'aro." So what does he look like? Is he old? Is he young? I mean, what is he wearing? So Vatomer ish zaken oleh is an old man that's coming up, which fit the description. V'hu temeil, and he was wearing a special coat. Now, if you recall, when Shaul was born, right? Shaul was born to his mother Hannah. Shmuel was born to his mother Hannah, and she brought him to Beit HaMikdash, and she dedicated him to the work of Beit HaMikdash. Before she shipped him off, to Eli to be raised in Beit HaMikdash, she sewed him a special coat, and that it was a signature coat that obviously he wasn't wearing the same coat all his life, but a similar coat of the similar look. There was the coat of Shmuel. That was his signature coat, just like his mom Hannah sewed to him. So everybody knew what it was. So she saw it. She said, "I saw it with that coat." Vayeda Shaul ki Shmuel. So that was the sign that Shaul was waiting for, a sign that Shaul was waiting for, and he understood that we're dealing now with Shmuel himself. Vaikod apayim arza vayishtachu. So he bows down. Why does he bow down now? He bows down now because now he realized that Shmuel is there, that the soul of Shmuel is there. He couldn't see him, he can't see him, he can only hear him, right? But when she told him who the person is, so now is the time for him to bow down because he knows that Shmuel is there. Okay. Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul. So then Shmuel started talking to Shaul directly. He doesn't talk to that woman anymore because she's not supposed to hear. She can't hear. She can only see. So Shmuel talks to him and says, "Why are you bothering me? Lama hirgastani? Why did you cause me this anger, this anxiety? Because as we said, when the neshama is summoned for something like that, or the neshama is summoned, period, it's many times they're not getting some sort of a Medal of Honor. So, it was really an unpleasant experience for the soul of Shmuel. La'alot oti, why did you bring me here? To bring me up. Vayomer Shaul, so Shaul says, "Tzarli, I'm sorry, pal. I'm sorry. Tzarli meod, I'm very sorry. Uplishtim nilchamim bi, and the Philistines are fighting me." He recognized that the fact that the Philistines are here fighting is not because the Jewish people did something wrong. He was not blaming anybody at this point. He was blaming himself. He realized for everything that he did for David, that caused David to run away from the land of Israel. Now that he's not in the land of Israel, that's an opportunity for the Philistines. He knew that he's in the eye of the storm. He is the cause of all this anxiety. So he said, so the Philistines are fighting me, not fighting us. Ve'elokim sar me'alai, and God is no longer with me. Ve'lo anani, and he's not answering me. Ve'lo anani od. And then he tells him all of the ways that he tried to ask him. But he changes the order and he dropped one of the ways. Remember, he first was asking in dreams. And then he was asking in the breastplate. and then he was asking for the prophets. Okay, now that he's talking to Mr. Prophet, the best of the prophet of all prophets, to Shmuel, he flips it. Even though he asked the prophets last, now in order to respect Shmuel, he said he asked the prophets first. So, and then he says, he doesn't say that he asked the breastplates, because the breastplates are associated with the Kohanim, which he managed to kill all of them or most of them in Nov. So he was embarrassed to tell Shmuel that I had to ask the breastplates of the Kohen Gadol that I just killed, So he didn't say that. And he just said that Gam b'chaloma, that he says that he did ask in a dream. And because God was not answering me, so I summoned you, I called you, because I need to know what to do. And this is where he was asking him, maybe I should strike a deal with him, maybe I should give in, maybe I should give myself. He doesn't know, he's in panic, total panic, but he knows that it's in his way, in his power to do something, and he just want to know what that is. Vayomer Shmuel, so Shmuel, ולמה תשאלני, ויאמר שמואל, ולמה תשאלני, והשם שר מעליך ויהי עריך. He says, why are you asking me? God is no longer with you. You saw that he's no longer with you. What do you think, that I'm going to change it? I actually was involved in instituting the replacement, in anointing the replacement. And this is the first time that Shmuel is telling him that David is going to replace him. ויעש השם לו כאשר דיבר בידי, ויקרא השם את הממלכה מידך ויתנה לרעך לדוד. He says that God is not with you. He tore it. He says what is law is him. So some say law means he's talking to Shaul in third person. Some say law means he's talking to David. But God is basically going to tear away the kingdom from you and is going to give it to David, לרעך דוד. Why? כאשר לא שמעת בקול השם, because you didn't listen to the voice to the instructions of God. ולא עשית אחרון אפו בעמלק, and you didn't perform the anger of God. You weren't the messenger who brings the anger of God and Amalek to destroy them. על כן הדבר הזה עשה לך השם היום הזה. That's why you got into this mess. That's why you're going to be in big trouble. And is the rabbi here already? The rabbi is not here, so we'll go on for another pasuk. So that's why you're in this trouble. So Shmuel is telling him, "Vayiten Hashem gam et Israel imcha biyad plishtim." And you should know that there will be a war tomorrow, but you should fight the war, and you're going to lose the war, and the Jewish people are going to lose the war. And tomorrow, machar ata uvanecha imi, and tomorrow you'll be with me. Wow. The last 24 hours of Shaul. So he's telling him straight, you asked, you went through all this trouble to ask the question, so here's the answer. You're going to have a war, you're going to fight the war, you're going to lose the war, and you're going to die, and your sons are going to die, and tomorrow we're going to meet in different circumstances. He tells him two things. He tells him, first of all, that that his fate is sealed, number one. So even if he runs like Yonah, would run will take a boat and run away, it's not going to work. And even though he is going to cause a loss to the Philistines, it's the right thing to do. And he's telling him that by going through this embarrassment of fighting and losing a war, even though you know that you're going to fight and lose the war, but you're going anyway. You know you're going to die and your sons are going to die, and you don't try to overturn that decree, ending. You're not trying to change the decree of God. That will buy you forgiveness for everything that you did. And from that, the rabbis are saying that someone is doing, is getting embarrassed and going through it anyway, that is a form of punishment, a form of expunging one's sins. And this is what brought Shaul a place in Gan Eden next to Shmuel. Shaul, after all of the bad things that he did, but he did all of those bad things because he was directed, it wasn't his real choice, it was almost, I mean, it was his choice, but the help of God was not with him, the Spirit of God was not with him, and he was thrown into a situation where he just couldn't manage himself. And so one would think that after killing so many people and batching so many projects that God set for him to do, that he will be gone, But no, he did end up. That's why Shaul is still being considered and revered by the Jewish people as the king, very important, looked up to. Because he's sitting in Gan Eden next to Shmuel, and Shmuel, as you saw before, is sitting right next to Moshe Rabbeinu. So he's really in the front line in Gan Eden, and that happened to him because he listened to Shmuel, even though he knew what's coming. He went through it, and we will see the last. This is the beginning of the last of the 24 hours. The last 24 hours in his life. We are going to go through the rest of it next time. Thank you.